good morning, afternoon, evening, night, with two edges to all blades. Lying and its adjoining characteristics can be one of the most powerful and influential linguistic and cerebral capabilities that we possess. It can be harnessed for many malign means and is frequented not too unlike a cheap escape from responsibilities or consequences we must all eventually come to face, feeding itself and your reliance upon it, stripping away the parts of you never thought changeable, the fear of fail, skipped hardships, clear signals, missed trails, paid for at your own expense, yet no deed has been redeemed. We should have had the insight and tenacity to endure for a new path ahead, the right path. We look at lying with a specific goal and only one intent. We load our ammunition and we either strike it dead or fall flat. Take the impact of science and physics in all our practical world. We can liken lying to the destructive capabilities of a nuclear bomb. Should one look at more than the effects of its implementation, they would find the means to build a power plant, further enrich broad technologies and methodologies, and the lives of others in meaningful ways. There are fundamental concepts and prolific truths which have always been our ascent from chaos and depravity, insight and spirit. One hand ought to wash the other. To make a difference, one must always rely on oneself. It is with persistent momentum that effort will realize, albeit at times while not even realized. When in doubt, one should undoubtedly start lying to themselves. A wise man, a wise man once said, "Hold on to your hope," but he didn't say you should expect the Pope. Hope's a one-eyed cat through the dark of night, a wide-brim hat with a storm in sight, a piece of wood strapped to your toes, a gap to grasp a thorny rose. In practicality, I can say with all certainty, there is a stupendous power to the human spirit. As far removed as you may feel at any one time from a semblance of faith, nobody can ever take away your spirit, only you. It hungers, it reels, it thrives, it heals. It is your immovable object, your unstoppable force. It has pushed us beyond the trees and into a world of our own design, a signet sign of our overzealous strive to push beyond, yet which we even know is safe for our own good, but we still persist. I've not seen dinosaurs outshine us in this regard, yet for their ability to summon meteors from the sky. Had they had the ability for insight and spirit, perhaps my arms would be too small to have written this down, because unfortunately I do write a lot better than I end up speaking due to the shotgun thoughts. But to the point, it is extremely important that, and I wouldn't even, to boil it down and make it simple, I would call it lying, because at the end of the day, there are certain things that we just don't know, and there's faith. On the opposite coin of lying is the faith that we have in ourselves and in things that we just don't know, that haven't come to be, and we, whatever it might be, even the food that you're hoping is going to be coming in that delivery. It's just like sometimes there's uncertainty in the world, but it's with that positive mentality that you're able to drive a change, and that persistence, because no matter what ends up happening, you're converting this negative energy into either neutral or positive, and it's something that for the world is a net positive. That's why it's always been that we're very localized creatures, and we look to each other for support and even admonishment. Sometimes, we need to be corrected. And that's the way that the Native Americans did everything. They had social stigmas, and they really didn't allow things to progress socially. Things were discouraged, there was shame, people were, corrected, that there was a self-correction going on, and it was like autonomous to how a lot of well, I wouldn't say autonomous, but at least in certain parts of the world where violence wasn't the first resort, which for the most part wasn't very prevalent in the East. That really is something, that ideology, more so in the West than in the East, other than the Buddhists and some other cultures and religions. It's been a fairly a red wash with overzealous people who, are trying to proclaim their ways upon other people, and it's not the way of our intent. And at this point now, with freedom being looked at as the ideal virtue to climb to, it's something that we really need to protect at this point, because there's a lot of wrong going on, and it's not the people who are doing the right thing that should feel, you know, hesitant to be involved with the change that needs to happen, and it is as simple as starting from you and everything around you. Because if everybody does that little bit around themselves, it's like the same thing that they tell you with the plastic and recycling and everything like that. Meanwhile, that's a different story, that really cannot fully be said, because there's a lot of big players in that are not involved. So anyway, when it comes to how you can make a difference with everything going on in the big picture as the little guy, it is as simple as doing that, because it really does. We are the support of one another, and we need that to continue on and provide, the social structure for everybody to thrive. And that there's sometimes where obviously competition, the natural aspects of everything get involved, and things are going to go one way that you prefer them not to. But you have to understand as well that through all of the difficult things, there is so much more to learn than there is from getting everything right, because there's value in that. When you get things right, chances are you got one thing right and everything else was luck. And oftentimes you don't see what it was that made what you did so great. At least you can't in some ways, because a lot of things in life are, what luck kind of boils down to is preparation meeting opportunity. And oftentimes you are not prepared in life. There are grand opportunities sometimes, and there are terrible opportunities. And in many ways, you can be ill prepared, and that might mean you fall for temptation in a negative way. And it also means you might miss out on a potential great opportunity because you just weren't qualified. You weren't ready. You didn't have the right characteristics. But in those defeats, there's something that you can use to grow, to become a more powerful player in the game. Things that those people who just looked at you as having failed at your task, they might never truly realize the greatness in what you just went through. There's a lot of that in my life where, especially with holding out, and just, there are things that are right and things that you must do. And sometimes you're just inwardly propelled to continue on that path, And I'm not talking about self-destruction. I'm talking about things that continue to bring fulfillment to you. And even though it might be disruptive to other people and they feel that you're not on the right path, there are many times that things are not that clear. And you really have to experience things to know what your how you're really going to interpret the next steps of your life. And without the experience to really guide you and tell you that this is like a certainty that you're not into, I cannot tell you how many things in my life I've changed my mind completely about. Or I like it, but it's not anywhere near to the extent I thought I did. And those types of passions, they can really drive you into like a corner sometimes, because actually you might be forced into something out of circumstance, and it's not really where you were looking to go. And that can definitely be a burden on yourself. So really, you have to pride yourself with the fact that you're going to be able to get over whatever you need to. And unfortunately, I know that family can be very difficult, but it is something I encourage people to try to, you know, even if it requires fighting, I really, there's, I don't know, I come from an Italian family, and there really is a very fluidness to the way that the verbal transactions happen, and things can be very, very direct and to the point, but it really allows a level of open communication that it allows for self correction, because people become aware of the things that they're doing. And that's like a huge problem. You see it all the time in media and movies where there's so much game playing. Like for example, in like Breaking Bad or Ozarks or something like that, you have this like level where the couples don't even communicate about the simplest things, that if they were to just keep each other in the loop, and really there's a level of foresight that you can have to these things, where so many of the games that happen between people, really, I mean, I'm saying games, a lot of it is how people just interpret the social structure of how things are supposed to work and how you're supposed to operate. That, you know your boyfriend or your friend who you've been talking to, dating, messages somebody, or just those tit for tat things, you go back and forth. And it's like, I really don't understand how people cannot see that exactly what happens in these movies and shows and stuff is exactly what happens. It's not like human nature. Well, I guess it might be, but it's also human nature to like not go to that level of game playing, and just talk to people realistically. And even if you know how they might be ready to play that next step against you in this, your friends, your acquaintances, whatever it might be, but you're going back and forth in this way that is like, is hostile, and it's increasing in intensity, frequency, all that type of stuff. It's just, it's not good, man. And even if someone's doing it, it doesn't mean that you have to do it back. You can just walk away from these things. There are many different ways of doing that where you're not becoming a part of this. But either way, it's something that you should look to not get involved with. And really, you know, keep keep yourself healthy, man. Keep yourself healthy in every way. Mentally, spiritually, get your body right, don't rely on other people. And that's pretty much what I have to say for this one. I wish everybody a wonderful, happy new year. I thank you all for the 3,000 subscribers and all the viewership you've been giving me. We're trying to work on updates and pretty much do whatever we can at this point. So, any feedback you have about the show, about the gaming content, whatever it might be, really appreciate that. Also got a Substack going, so we're trying to get as much stuff out that we feel is valuable to be putting out there, sharing, and yeah, appreciate it. Thank you very much. You all take care.